Hi, welcome to the Gentle Pilates mat class with your teacher, Jenny Gadbois. So this practice is all going to happen on the floor on a mat. And so to make yourself as comfortable as possible, you definitely want to have a yoga mat. You could do it on a carpeted surface, that's even nicer. And it can be handy to have a blanket or a towel available when you're doing a practice like this, because you might have certain parts of your body, like a hip or a knee, that's really tender when you're putting pressure on it on the floor. And so the blanket or the towel can be really, really nice. We're going to use the blanket first and foremost when we're on our hands and knees, which is the way that we're going to start in this class. And before we move into that, I'll just say that as with any exercise practice, any exercise program, if you have any issues or concerns, the best thing to do before you start is to check with your doctor to see what she or he thinks about you doing some gentle Pilates. And with that said, as long as everything feels good to you, let's come on to our hands and knees. So use the blanket to pad your knees and then hands on the mat. And if you find that there's a lot of pressure in your hands, maybe a second blanket or a towel would be helpful for you. So coming on to hands and knees, hands below the shoulders and knees below the hips, let your feet rest long. And just take a moment to be in this position and feel how the tension on the muscles of the front of the body help to support you in this position. So we're not hanging into the front of the body, but we're being supported by the front of the body. And let's just take a couple of breaths. Breathing in and out through your nose if that's possible. Now moving with your breath, as you inhale, gently allow the spine to begin to form an arch. And as you exhale, lift your belly and your chest to round your spine. Inhale, as you move slowly and mindfully into an arch, and exhale, as you use your muscles to form this cat-like shape. Let's do that a couple more times. Inhale and exhale. Inhaling and exhaling. And one more time. Inhale and exhale. And then come back to the center. Shift your weight off of your hands, and you can move that blanket out of the way and come onto your back. And laying on your back, let your feet and knees be positioned hips distance apart. Your arms come alongside your body, right? And just take a moment to let the muscles on the front of the body soften and the weight of the trunk to rest into the floor. And then when you're ready, on an exhale, begin to roll your tailbone off the floor, peeling your spine up off of the mat. And as you reach your shoulder blades, think about stretching your knees out in the direction of your toes to elongate your body from deep inside. And then exhale, roll your spine back down onto the mat. And pause and take a breath, letting everything come to rest. Beginning with the tail, peel your spine off of the mat, rising up to your shoulders. And then roll back down. Again, allowing everything to come back to a neutral state. So as we come up off of the floor, we want to feel the legs and the arms pressing away from the ground or pressing into the ground. And that act of pressing the feet and the hands into the floor, the action of pressing the legs and the arms into the floor or towards the floor, it engages the muscles on the back of the body that we need to give us support. Let's do that one more time. Right? So you're not just using your legs, you're also using your arms, and then roll all the way back down, allowing everything to come to rest. Now stretch one leg out across the floor and bring the other leg into what we call a tabletop position. And then take your fingers, interlace them around the back of your thigh. Without moving any other part of your leg, begin to circle your foot, right? So just getting your foot to move around your ankle joint. Enjoying some deep, full inhales and complete exhales. And then reverse the direction that you're circling your foot. Now pause that movement, right? And point your foot and lift your shin to straighten your knee and then bend your knee. So you're keeping your foot in this, what we call pointed position. The proper term is plantar flexion. Right, so we're just making the foot nice and long as we lift the shin to straighten the knee and flex the knee. We'll do that 2 more times. Lifting the shin, extending the knee, and flexing the knee. And 1 more time. Flex the knee. Grab your shin and hug your thigh into the front of your torso, and then release that leg all the way down. Bring the other leg up, reach around, interlace your fingers, and begin to circle just the foot, breaking the foot free from the stickiness of the lower leg. Breathing through your nose if that's possible. Reverse the direction of the movement. And then pause with both feet plantar flexed or pointed. Lift your shin, extend your knee, and then flex your knee. So you're taking your leg through this cycle of movement, engaging the muscles on the front of the thigh to extend the knee, and then slowly relaxing those muscles to flex the knee. And we'll do that 1 more time. Flex the knee, reach around, take a hold of the shin, hug the leg into the belly, and then release that leg all the way down to the floor. Really nice. Now, bring the first leg up, reach out and take a hold of that shin. One hand gets a nice chunk of shin and the other hand gets another nice piece of shin. Your other leg is straight on the floor, right? Intentionally allow your shoulders to remain soft, right? And just let them drop away from your ears. Now, tuck your chin and curl your upper body away from the floor. You're flexing your spine to come towards your knee and then roll back down. We're going to do that 2 more times. So we're going to curl up into that leg and then back down. And 1 more time, curling up and lowering back down. Release that leg all the way to the floor. Bring the other leg up. Take a hold of some real estate on your shin. One hand gets one piece, another hand gets another piece, right? And then tuck your chin and curl your upper trunk away from the floor and then lower it back down. And curling up and lowering back down. Do that 1 more time, curling up and lowering back down, and then release that leg all the way down to the floor. Good. Now bend your knees and reach your arms wide out to the sides, turning your arms so that your palms face up towards the ceiling, right? Bring one leg up into a tabletop position and the other leg up into a tabletop position, right? Maintaining the same amount of space between your feet and your knees. Begin to turn your pelvis like you're turning a steering wheel to the right, coming back to the center, and turn your pelvis like you're turning a steering wheel to the left and turn back to the center, right? So you're turning, which is an action. You're not turning and then hanging from your muscles, right? So what we don't want to do is turn and then stop turning and just kind of drop and plop onto the floor, right? So you're staying in an action condition in your muscles, turning to the right and back to the center and turning to the left and back to the center. And we'll do that a couple more times. You can always put your feet back down and take a break if this is too much for you. You have to build your strength up slowly and safely. And let's do that one more time. So turning, intentionally driving the pelvis around in one direction and then driving it around in the other direction, and then come back to the center. Take a hold of your shins, right hand on right shin, left hand on left shin. Tuck your chin and curl yourself into a little ball, and then see if you can generate a little bit of momentum and just roll back and forth a couple of times. And then come all the way up into a seated position. So we're going to sit, right, with our legs out in front of us. And so it may be difficult for you to sit like this. And so your towel or your blanket can serve another function. You can use it as a prop to help you to sit up a little bit higher. So you can fold it a few times and then use it as a seat. And you may find that that helps you to sit up. Now, the other thing that we can do is we can change how our legs are, right? So when you're sitting up, you may actually find that it's helpful to bend your knees and let your legs turn out. The only downside to sitting like this is that you will be very active in your hip flexor muscles, and that can be sort of tiring after a while. But you can try that. Or you can sit with your feet a little bit wider and let your knees be a little bit more relaxed. But again, that can get you into your hip flexors. So you're just going to have to take care of yourself. Now, the way that I'm going to encourage you to get to do this is to have your legs together and your feet flexed, right? So this is what you're going to work towards. So you can really hug your legs together, right? So the legs are hugging together in this seated position. The arms are going to come out wide. So you're actively reaching your fingertips out in opposite directions, not up, but out, right? And your legs are hugging together. Now, from here, keep your legs hugged together, and we're going to turn the upper body without shrugging the shoulders and come back. And then turn the upper body and come back. So this is a deceptively challenging thing for us to do. We're hugging the legs and we're developing the strength in our trunk to rotate, right? The more effectively you can hug your legs together when you do this action, the stronger the muscles responsible for turning your upper torso will become. And we'll go one more time to the other side, and then come back to the center and relax those arms down, right? It's natural for you to feel a lot happening in here when you're sitting like that. So let's take care of that area and turn and come onto our side. So as you come onto your side, if you lay on your side and stretch your bottom arm out long, right? And just kind of see how this feels to be on your side. For some people, the side of the hip is very tender. And so what you might want to do is to not too thickly, right? So maybe just fold your towel once or twice at the most, is you could put a little pad underneath your bottom hip to make you feel a little bit more comfortable, okay? but you don't want to be up too high because that's going to throw off your balance. Okay, so let's start with our legs straight. We call this stacked legs. And let's extend this bottom arm up. Now, if extending your bottom arm up is really difficult for your shoulder, you can put a bend in this elbow. Flex this bottom elbow and let your arm become a pillow. Okay, so, but I'm going to work with my arm straight up because that doesn't bother me. Your other hand is on the mat, and you're going to use this hand to help stabilize you so that you don't fall over. Okay, because there's a tendency when we're on the hip to rock back or rock forward. So just try to find a balance point. Okay, so we're going to lift this top leg. And as we lift the leg, we're going to gently rotate the leg so the knee faces a little bit more towards the ceiling and then back down. So you're doing this movement slowly and mindfully. And you're probably going to experience a lot of feedback from the muscles of your outer thigh and hip area. Let's do that a couple more times. So there's a little bit of what we call an external rotation as we raise the leg. And then lower that leg all the way back down. Now put a little bend in your bottom leg and hold your top leg level with your hip joint and begin to circle this leg, right? Making sure that you feel that the circling is coming from this region of the body associated with the leg, and you're not doing something from your abdomen, kind of thrusting or pumping from your belly and back to circle your leg. Pause in the center and reverse the direction of your leg circles. Again, nice breathing through your nose. And then you can pause and lower that leg down. Really, really nice. Now straighten out both of your legs again. Both of your legs again. And then using your top hand to help stabilize you, you're going to see if you can lift both legs at the same time, right? And then lower them down. Now you're going to feel that effort come all the way up into the side of your trunk. So you're going to lift both legs and put them back down, making that bottom leg stick to the top leg. Right, so that the legs don't separate. That takes a lot of concentration. Let's do that twice more. Lifting and lowering and lifting and lowering. Really nice. So we're going to do those three things on the second side. Okay. So as you come out onto this side, you may or may not need to pad your bottom hip. As you come onto this side, you may be able to stretch your bottom arm. You may have to flex your bottom arm, right? So you do what's appropriate for you. So we're going to start with the legs stacked, and we're going to use this top hand for stability. And when we raise this top leg, we're going to rotate the thigh bone just a tiny, tiny little bit so that the kneecap is a little bit more turned towards the ceiling. We're feeling that work from the outer hip and thigh. We're not kicking the leg up. We're not thrusting the leg up. We're slowly lifting the leg up. And then let that leg rest. Put a bend, soft bend in the bottom leg. Hold the top leg about hip height and begin to work that top leg in circles. Right? You're working from the muscles of your hip and thigh, and you're not thrusting or gyrating from your belly and your spine. And then pause in the center and reverse your circles. And then you can pause that movement and set your leg down. Now, one more, we're going to put those legs together again. Right? And we're going to do a double leg lift and then lower back down, right? So the challenge is to keep those legs together. And you may even feel as you raise both legs, your spine gets longer. You feel sort of an energetic extension out the crown of your head when you lift up both of those legs up together. And let's do that one more time. Lifting those legs up and then lowering back down. Really nice. Let's turn on to our belly. Let's turn on to the belly. And as you come onto your belly, bring your hands onto the mat a little bit, like they're kind of beside your chest, but then a little wider, right? And when you're on your belly, your legs are about hips distance apart. And the tip of your nose is aiming straight down to the floor, right? So you're not looking out in front of you. You're looking down at the floor. And notice where your shoulder blades are. Just let your shoulder blades rest on your back. Don't try to force them to do anything. Just allow them to rest on your back. There's a little bit of muscular tone in your legs, but not a lot, right? Just a little bit of tone. So we're going to move with our breath. As we inhale, we're going to lift the front of our chest a little bit away from the floor. And as we exhale, we're going to lower down. You want to feel a bit of activation in your glutes, in your buttocks, as you raise the front of your chest off of the floor. And you're strengthening your low back muscles and the muscles of spinal extension, right? My arms are really not doing much work at all. If I had to give it a percentage, I would say that my back is doing 90+% of the work, and my arms are maybe doing 10% at the most. So it's not like a push-up, which is a lot more effort from your arms and your shoulders. So we're going to do one more. We're going to lift up and we're going to lower down all the way down. Let your hands overlap. Rest your forehead on your hands and just wiggle your butt, your hips from side to side to release and relax. Let's do one more from this position. So let's come up onto the elbows. And once you're up onto your elbows, interlace your fingers, right? Place your elbows about shoulder width, slightly in front of your shoulders, okay? And sometimes there's a tendency for some of us to really get grippy in our low back muscles. So what we want to do instead is feel more of this lower buttock area stabilizing us, and a little bit more work in the upper body to lift us. So it's not all about the low back, right? It's more about your buttocks, your hips, and your shoulders, right? So this is a movement, a coordinated movement of foot and knee. So in slow motion, we're going to flex each knee twice. So I'm flexing each knee twice, and I'm going to change what I do with my foot. So I'm going to point and flex my foot. Point and then flex my foot. So each knee gets flexed twice. The foot goes through its two positions in this plane: plantar flexion, dorsiflexion. Point, flex. Right. If you start to feel something happening in that low back, chances are that you've stopped using the upper body strength to help hold you up. And last one. And then you can lower down, put your hands by your chest, and pick yourself up off of the floor and come up onto your hands and knees. Once you're up onto your hands and knees, if you need your blanket, take your blanket. Okay. And once you're up on your hands and knees, let's contract the abdominal muscles to round the spine and release the tension in the back. Take a big breath. And then release back to neutral. Okay. Now we're going to do a little bit to strengthen the upper body from this position. So on your hands and knees, I want you to take one of your two arms and extend it straight out to the side. Okay. And from here, you're going to do an upper body twist. So you're kind of pressing through the bottom arm to open up your chest. And then you're going to come down and put your hand back on the mat. Take your other arm out to the side. And you're going to open up and then bring that hand down to the mat. Float one arm out and then press away from the mat, opening the chest and come back. Take your other arm out to the side, press away from the mat to lift up and rotate and come back. We'll do that one more time for each. Take your arm out to the side and press away and twist and open up and bring your hand back to the mat. Lift your arm out to the side and twist to open up and bring your hand back to the mat. Shift and come off of your hands. And then let's take a seat in what we call a mermaid position. So the mermaid position is where we have the legs folded, right? One leg is folded in front and one leg is folded around to the side. And if you feel really crooked in this position, here's another thing that you can do with your blanket. You can take your blanket and you can prop one of your hips up so you feel a little bit more straight, more centered in the middle, right? So use props to help make your body feel more centered, more stable. Okay, so I'll just leave that right there. Okay, and so when we're sitting in this mermaid position, we're going to reach our arms out to the side, touching the tips of the fingers to the ground. Okay, so my left leg is in front and my right leg is folded around, right? So you might be the same or the opposite as me. So I'm going to lift, whichever leg is in front, I'm going to lift that arm up first. I'm going to slide the tips of my fingers out across the floor and take a side bend and come back to the center. Now I'm going to float the other arm up. I'm going to slide the tips of my fingers out, put a little pressure in this hand to reach over and then come back to center. Right? So when we lift the arm up, the palm faces up. It's almost like a scooping up and over and then come back to the center. Lift the arm up and turn that palm down so you can put a little bit of weight into it as you come over and back to center. Scoop your arm up, both palms face up when we do the first bend, come back to center. Now as we do the second bend, one palm is up, the other palm is down, and then we come back to the center. Let's straighten the legs out in front of us and rub out our kneecaps. Good, and then we'll do the second side. So if you get to this mermaid position and you just feel really crooked and off center, again, use the blanket to pad you, right? And that's not to say you're sitting symmetrical on the blanket. The blanket really is sitting only under, or the towel is sitting under one side, whichever side you feel like you're leaning towards. So you're bringing that up to feel more balanced. Now take your fingertips out to the sides, touching the floor. Okay, so whichever leg is in front, that's the arm that's going to go up first. So we're going to scoop that arm up, both palms face up as we side bend in the first direction and then back down. Now, as we lift the other arm up into the air, turn the bottom palm down so that you can rest a little bit into that palm as you take the side bend in that direction. So here we are, both palms up as we take this side bend back to center. Now we have the rising arm palm up, the weighted arm palm down, take the side bend. And we'll do that one more time to each side. Both palms face up and come back to center. Rising arm palm up, weighted arm palm down and back to center. And then let's come off of those bent knee positions and just rub out the kneecaps. Really, really nice. And then let's finish with a nice movement for the hips. So when you're on your mat, you're going to take your feet about as wide as your mat, and you're going to rest your hands back behind you. It doesn't matter what direction, just make your hands comfortable. Okay. And what we're going to do here is just a tilting the legs from side to side. And as you tilt your legs, see if you can do less turning in your trunk and keep your trunk relatively steady. So your trunk is, the front of your body is facing forward, right? Kind of facing the center of your mat, and you're getting your legs to move. Now you could allow your trunk to turn too, which will actually bring the movement all the way up into your upper body, right? So you can do it both ways, where you allow your trunk to turn so that you're feeling the stretch in the front of your shoulders, or you can keep your trunk still and you'll feel it more in your hips and thighs. And you've probably noticed that I look like I'm fidgeting, but what's happening is as I'm tilting my legs, I'm really drifting all over my mat. So there's a lot of extra movement here. And then let's just come back to the center. And we're going to finish back down on our backs with our arms alongside our body and your feet flat and your knees hips distance apart. Just take a moment here to come to rest on your back. As you exhale, begin to peel your tailbone off the mat, right? Drawing the rest of the spine up away from the mat. And as you come up into the bridge, raise both arms all the way up overhead. And then roll your spine back down, opening up the front of your chest and shoulders, and then circle your arms back down by your sides. Peel your spine up off the floor. Stay lifted. Raise the arms all the way up overhead and melt your spine back down, circling your arms back down by your sides. Let's take that one more time. Curling up. Remaining up as we lift the arms up overhead and then rolling back down and bringing those arms back down by your sides. Bring your knees into your body, take hold of your shins and circle your pelvis around in one direction and circle your pelvis around in the other direction. Release your feet to the floor, roll onto one side and press yourself up away from the ground. Really, really nice. I hope you enjoyed the class, and please feel free to do this every day throughout the entire winter. Keep your body active, keep your body healthy, and enjoy your days. Thank you so much.